Hi, my name is Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and welcome to this SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation at Home with Pose. Today's guest is a master of all mediums, a singer, actor, writer, director, an entertainer you've seen on stage in Kinky Boots, for which he won both the Tony Award and a Grammy Award, and of course on the TV series Pose, where his performance as Pray Tell has earned him a Golden Globe nomination and the Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. He is also my favorite person to see on red carpets everywhere. Please welcome Billy Porter.
Hi, how
Hi.
are you, Jenelle?
Good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. This is usually an audience of SAG actors who watch us, so I usually like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
Oh,
I know you have one.
I really don't remember. I don't remember.
Was it possibly Law and Order? Because I know every New York actor goes through
No, no. I think it may have been the Broken Hearts Club.
Oh, wow.
Greg Berlanti's The Broken Hearts Club. I think it may have been that because that was the first big movie I did. So I think it's probably that.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, I usually ask that question of people, but for you, I actually want to go back even further because before you got started in film and TV, you had such an amazing career and performance. When did you know that this was something you wanted to do?
Show business?
Yeah.
In general? I was in the 6th grade. It was 1980. They were trying desegregation for the second time. So I was bused to a school about 40 minutes away from my house where, we were mixing the races. The unfortunate part about it was that, the schools in the Black neighborhoods were substandard. So when we got into the mix, we were then separated by aptitude. Mm-hmm. So it's like a lot of us were behind. For whatever reason, I was put into the scholars program. But I walk into a room with 25 white people and me and another Black girl. So it was like, what do you do? And they had these after school programs. It was right before Reagan was elected. So, the government still cared about the people in public education. And so there were after school programs that were like, when I say the book was this big, back in front of what you could do, of the programs that you could participate in. And they had something, the school's name was Reisenstein. And so it was Reisenstein Musical Theater. And they introduced me to what a musical meant, what it was. The musical was Babes in Arms. Every single part was double cast except me. And that's when I knew, oh, wait, maybe I might be able to do something with this singing thing and this sort of creative thing that I have that hasn't really made much of an impact up until now.
I like that even then you were one of a kind. They were like, we're not going to double cast this. You're gonna do every performance.
All 4 of them.
When it's a small run, it's important.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Very important. Very important.
And what do you, I know the term big break is really a misnomer. It's usually a series of small breaks or medium-sized breaks that lead you to a moment. But what do you sort of consider your first significant break in show business?
There were a lot of them. I would say the first Broadway show that I booked was the original cast of Miss Saigon. That was an internship for my second semester of my senior year from Carnegie Mellon University. So that was the first, okay, I'm on Broadway.
And I love this story because I used to work for Backstage West, and you got this just through an audition you found in Backstage. Yeah.
How you do it?
Thank you. That's what I'm always telling you.
It's really not brain surgery. Backstage Magazine lists the auditions and you go to them. You circle the ones you want and you go to them. That's what you do. I went to an open call for Miss Saigon. There were probably about 1,000 people there because it was a huge show coming from London. And it was, it was the British invasion on Broadway. So they had already done Cats. Cameron McIntosh had already done Cats. He had already done Les Mis. He had already done Phantom. And Saigon was the next big Cameron McIntosh show. So everybody wanted to be in it. And I went to an open call and got called back, and the rest is history.
That's great. I mean, that's the way it should be, but it's hard sometimes for people to believe. They're like, surely you knew someone.
No, not all. I mean, there's that version too.
Sure.
But the thing about being in a Broadway show, and especially when you're young and you're auditioning for the ensemble, it's an open market.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Or was an open market. I don't know what it is now.
I want to start at the beginning with Pose, because you were already a Broadway legend when you signed on for the role of Pray Tell, but you were, but you also had, experience in film and TV. Were you actively looking to do a TV series when this got its way to you?
I have been for a long time, and it's been very difficult for me to find, because as a queer artist, there's a lot of marginalization that goes on. As a man, and as a Black man in particular, there was a huge expectation to live up to the masculinity standard that I just could never quite convince anybody that I was masculine enough, I guess. To cross over into the film and television world in any consistent kind of way. I did some things here and there, but I was looking for something consistent. So to have this come along at this time and to sort of embrace and lean into and be exactly in line with me and my authenticity and the stories that I want to tell, is just, it takes my breath away. Even still to this day, I'm 3 years in, and I just wake up and pinch myself every day.
I was actually surprised to learn you auditioned for Pose. I assumed the role was written for you.
Well, it was written for me, but I did have to audition. So both things are true.
One of those.
So I went in and I auditioned for the dance teacher. And then I was able to say to Alexa Fogel, listen, I have lived this. I am this. And it would be a waste of my time. It would be a waste of your time and mine to be doing a show about the LGBTQ ball culture and have me somewhere else. It's like, I think, what about one of the mothers of the houses of, or, because Paris is Burning is, one of my formative movies. And that was when I learned that Ryan's idea was to have, transgender women of color leading this cast. And I said, well, now I really have to be in it.
Yeah.
And I really have to be with them. Like, don't you need a male energy over there? Don't you need an adult male energy over there? Just ask Ryan and see if, that's something that he would be interested in. And I got a call 3 weeks later, and Alexa said, Ryan wants to see you. He wants you to do, he said, if you can do an impersonation of the MCs from Paris is Burning, he wants to see that. And it's like, I am that. This is my whole life is that. So I went in to the audition. Everybody was in the room, and I have to say, the big difference between theater and film and television is that so much of film and television, even in the audition, is on camera. And it's not very often that you're in a room with the people that can say yay or nay. Mm. My experience was always, I'm going on tape, and then it's just no. And it's like, well, you know, I don't get to make a choice and show you that I can do anything you want me to do because it's on tape. When you're in a Broadway show, when you go to your final Broadway audition, everybody is in the room. All the producers, so we were in New York, and now this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know, like I know how to work a room. This was like the callback for a Broadway show. You know, and so I did like literally like 20 pages of declarations, you know, because the category is blah, 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 because the part wasn't written. There wasn't anything for me to read scene-wise. So Ryan, in his infinite wisdom, because we're about 2-3 years difference. I think he's like 2 years older than me, maybe 3. We lived through the same stuff. So he started asking me questions. You know, he does his research. He knows I'm political, and he knows exactly what buttons to push to get me to talk. So he started asking me questions in this meeting, and an hour later, I'm sweating in my little Mr. Turk jumpsuit, and I'm calling Trump a motherfucker, and I'm, you know, and that is the energy. And he told me later that was what he wanted the creators to see.
Wow.
So that they would know the power that they were being given and to write to that. And so Pray Tell was created for me, and around, you know, ultimately it was created for me. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It is fantastic because it's like, you know, how many times did I hear in my life, oh, you're so talented. There's just no place for you. It's like, that doesn't pay the rent. That doesn't pay the bills. My whole life, you're the most talented person in the room, but we're not giving you the job.
I mean, and you've relied on yourself to create your own work before in the past. I mean, you've written plays, and so that's something you must have known early on you had to do.
Well, well, if you call 30 early, you know, I'm the last of a generation who was taught to be brilliant interpreters of other people's material. I went to Carnegie Mellon as a drama major. I learned Shakespeare, I learned Chekhov, I learned Ibsen, I learned, you know, August Wilson. I learned, you know, you learn the classics, you learn how to show up, you learn how to deliver. This new, you know, social media, internet, do-it-yourself thing didn't come till later in my life. So I didn't know that I could. I didn't know that I wanted to. And I didn't know that I needed to. I didn't know I needed to. You know, and it was because the work dried up for me in the theater, because I decided that I didn't want to be the clown anymore, the gay magical fairy clown that sprinkles, you know, that sprinkles healing fairy dust all over all the white people all the time. But I don't have my own story. I don't have my own humanity. I'm just a clown for y'all. And so when I realized that that's not what I wanted to do anymore, and I stood on my own 2 feet and made the demand that I wanted to be a real human being and be cast as real human beings, the work dried up. So me evolving into becoming a creator of my own work, a writer, a director, came out of necessity. I'm grateful. I'm better for it. But, and I always say, had my career turned out the way that I felt I was entitled to have it turn out, this would be a very different conversation right now. It might not even be a conversation right now.
That's interesting because you've had an amazing last couple years. I mean, your Emmy win was literally historical. You were the first openly gay Black man to win a lead actor, I think, in any leading category. And it was such a fantastic speech.
Thank you.
You've become everyone's favorite person on the red carpet. You're even doing commentary at the Oscars. Like, are you kind of glad it's happening later in your career?
Yes.
Do you think you're handling it better now?
Yes. Well, you know, I realize that who I am and what I represent is radical change. people who receive it have various reactions. And for myself, I have to be stable. I have to know who I am. I have to be able to look at or, be present for the good and the not so good and still stand inside of my truth. When I am attacked for being on Sesame Street in my Oscar dress, and people, and the governor of Arkansas and Million Moms want to cut funding for PBS because there's a Black man in a dress on Sesame Street, and that means that I have an agenda to come into your house and molest your children. These are still the conversations we're having. I couldn't combat that as a 20-year-old. Can I cuss on here, or is this mainstream?
Oh, you can absolutely cuss. Yeah.
Okay. As a 50-year-old, I can look at that motherfucker and go, kiss my ass, and let's have a round table about this, because you're a fucking idiot. You're a fear-mongerer, and I'm not having it anymore, and we're not going anywhere. So stop it. I have sex with consenting adults only. Get out of my bedroom. It's not your business. And these are the conversations that I, as a powerful grown-ass man who knows exactly who I am and doesn't care about validation from the outside in any way, can have. Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that I can do that at 50. I don't give a fuck. You've seen it. You've seen it. You know what I mean? You've seen it. I don't care. I'm gonna do me over here and y'all do y'all over there. We can agree to disagree. We can still love each other inside of our differences, in spite of our differences. That's what makes us stronger. We're not all the same. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you got me all riled up.
No, absolutely.
I'm a very passionate person. My husband's like, you're always yelling. Okay, sorry.
But it's worthy of yelling. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. And sometimes you have to yell to be heard, I think. I do want to talk about season 2 of Pose, because season 1 was so acclaimed and so wonderful. And I'm always a little nervous when a show comes back, like, oh, how is it going to be as good? And then it's even better.
Oh, thank you. I thought so too.
Yeah, I really did. It's basically you and Breaking Bad have figured out how to keep getting better. I'm sort of curious, what did end up being the challenges of coming back for another season? And, you've jumped a few years into the future. It's kind of a slightly different setting. For you, what was the biggest challenge?
I had 2 challenges. My first love scene and having to act like I don't know how to walk in heels.
I wondered about that, actually.
I got that script and I was like, really, you guys? Really?
It's like playing drunk when you're sober. How do you believably pull that off? Yeah.
Well, there's a trick to that. There's a process to that. With the drunk thing, you learn it early in school. You're not playing drunk. You're trying to not be drunk. Drunks don't want to look drunk. They're trying to not be drunk. So your physical action is about trying to make people think that you're not drunk. That makes it so much easier. Because I had to do my first drunk scene too in season 1. And I was terrified. And I remembered from acting school, that was what I was supposed to do. And then the day that I went in, Ryan loves a drunk. He loves a drunkard. He loves to smash a table and throw things. And so I got this script, and the day that I was shooting it, I woke up really early in the morning and I watched Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I watched the beginning, I watched a little bit of the middle, and then I watched the end so that I could see the progression. And then I went into Janet and I said, okay, so do you want full on Virginia Woolf, or do you want to mitigate it a little bit? And she said, well, give me, let's start a little, and then we'll do a couple of takes where it's just like, and that was one take. Mm-hmm. That was like the last time I did it. I think I did it like 3 times, and that was the last time I did it, and it was the full take. That's one of my favorite scenes from season 1. I think that's the scene that won me the Emmy. I think that's the episode that won me the Emmy. I really do. It was episode 6. I really, really do. Because that's the one they submitted. And
what was your favorite moment from season 2?
The hospital sequence where I get sick and I start having flashbacks. Angels in America is my favorite play. Tony Kushner is a friend, my favorite playwright, one of my favorite writers ever.
You did it, right? You've done Angels in America.
I did the first revival that was off Broadway with Zachary Quinto and Zoe Kazan and Bill Heck.
I was just going to say, I got to throw out the love for Bill Heck.
Bill Heck and Chow. You know who. Anyway, Frank Wood. So he knew, Ryan knows that that's like my favorite piece of anything and like how it changed my life. And so he created this sort of like Angels in America type Prior Walter moment for me. Mm. I just, and then to get to sing The Man That Got Away as a little gay boy, it's like, it doesn't get no better than that.
And the finale was so fantastic. I mean, all the men dressing up and, sort of getting to experience that. It just left on such a beautiful, inspirational note, which I'm glad because, we're having to wait a little longer for season 3. I know you guys cut down.
Yeah, I think, one of the strengths of our show is that you get to watch in real time. People choosing joy anyway. People choosing love anyway, in the face of the most grave of circumstances. You can choose joy. You can choose love, and it does make a difference.
Even when it's difficult. I mean, season 2, we saw the death of Candy, which was, just devastating.
For
and
all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious when you're shooting something like that. I know it's acting, but you're probably drawing on real life experiences. Are those days where it's sort of hard to go home and let that go?
Yeah. And especially for me, having lived through the AIDS crisis, I find that your body doesn't know the difference. As actors, your body doesn't know. And so I found myself, I'll go all the way back to Angels in America that I did for almost a year, and about 7 months in, I was like, why am I so depressed? Why am I so depressed? And then I went to the theater that night and did the show and was like, oh, maybe because I'm in AIDS land 8 shows a week, and so this time it's been a little bit, I've been able to monitor my mental health a little bit better because I'm also in a relationship, so I get to come home to my husband. I get to come home to my family. My sister lives around the corner from me, so there are things that lift me out of it and remind me that it's fiction, remind me that it's make-believe, remind my spirit.
Mm-hmm. And I believe you were directing an episode in season 3 when the shutdown happened.
I am going to.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. I'm directing, I'm writing. I've been waking up at 5 a.m. every morning, writing till 10. I finished a pilot for a show that I've been working on. I'm 7 chapters into my memoir, and I got my treatment done for a children's picture book, and I'm writing a musical, and my single came out, For What It's Worth. for this political season came out, and I have another single coming out. So, you know, as a freelance artist who actually is on a roll right now, this time has been okay. It really has, because I don't have to be anywhere and I can be in one place. I've been able to work on the ideas of self-care, the theories on balance and boundaries, you know, like all this stuff that I've never really had the luxury to engage with before. I am finding and learning and like really taking this time during this global reset to reset so that I can come back stronger and better than ever.
To that end, I want to remember people watching, you can check the comments of this video for information on SAG-AFTRA Foundation's COVID-19 Relief Fund, because I do think that entertainment is also what's getting us through this very strange time. Are there things you're watching and reading that you want to recommend?
Well, I've been reading James Baldwin. I've just gone back to all of the, you know, The Fire Next Time, and, you know, just all of his essays, because I'm writing my memoir, and his is the voice in my head that has been the most healing for me. So I'm reading a lot of that. I am a huge fan of Black AF on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
I am a huge fan. You know, it didn't get great reviews. I don't think white people understand it. You know, there's a real disconnect, I find, with our arbiters, who very often are white and very often are male and very often don't actually understand the perspective from where the story is being told. It's brilliant.
I'm so glad you said that, because I love Blackish and Mixedish. I want to check it out.
Brilliant. I love Blackish. I love Grownish. I love Mixedish. I love that Kenya Barris. I love what he's doing, you know, for our community, because, you know, we also have a balance that we're trying to, you know, from the Tyler Perrys of the world to the Ava DuVernays and everything in between. You know, it's the first time in our history that we're seeing close to a range of what we are as African Americans. And it's, as an artist, it's so fabulous, you know, because for so long there was only one thing or two things. And now it's cracking open to so many different kinds of stories. And now I feel seen. Me, you know, for the first time in my life as a Black little queer boy, I feel seen for the first time at 50 in a larger conversation. And that's important. And that's what we get to do as artists. You know, we get to reach inside the hearts and minds of people and change the molecular structure of that mess that's in there for whatever reason. You know, I just feel so blessed to be in this position, you know.
I was thinking about that, like growing up, you probably didn't have someone like you to look up to. Did you have, you know, performing heroes or?
Yeah, you know, Whitney Houston, Denzel Washington, Johnny Hathaway, the Jeffersons, Good Times. You know, like we had some stuff, but there was no queer stuff. We had some Black stuff. Thank God for Norman Lear, because he wanted to talk about stuff that was difficult to talk about. So thank God for him. Yeah.
I mean, I have to imagine people today that when they, you know, see you on the street or wherever, they want to talk to you about how much they love your work, but it's probably also very personal to a lot of them.
It is very personal, and it's very profound, and it's intentional. You know, I looked at the market, I looked at it 20 years ago and was like, listen, I don't fit into the masculinity game. Nobody thinks I'm masculine enough to work. So why don't I take myself out of that and be the thing that I want to see? I'll be the thing that I want to see. This, what you're seeing right now, is intentional. I planned it. I prayed for it. I meditated on it. You know, I put one foot in front of the other. I spoke this into my own life because I knew that it was needed and necessary in this world. You know, my art is my ministry. I grew up in the church. My art is my ministry. It's not traditional. And that's okay.
I actually, it's funny when you talk about how you weren't perceived as masculine enough, because there is nothing more athletic than being able to walk in high heels.
Correct.
I would like to see a football player do that.
Correct. 8 shows a week in a musical, dancing backwards.
I mean, there's nothing harder. And I believe, did I hear you're playing the fairy godmother in Cinderella?
I am. I shot it already. They shut down production, but I shot it right like 3 weeks before they shut down production, or maybe even, like 3 weeks before they had to shut down production.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, once again, it speaks to the power of authenticity. It doesn't matter if you've not seen it before. It doesn't matter if you don't see what you are or you don't think that you fit in. It doesn't matter. Sit inside of your truth. Make that the strongest and the best that it can be. And the world will catch up. It has to. The world only spins forward. Thank you, Tony Kushner.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank you for another great season. And I hope you get to give another amazing speech. We should just give you awards for giving speeches.
You know, it's so weird because I come from Broadway. You can only win a Tony Award for the same role one time.
Right.
Like, this is all new for me. It's like, oh wait, we doing this again?
And you've gone back, haven't you, and played Lola in Kinky Boots?
I did go back and play Lola for 15 weeks at the end of 2017.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it. Thank you for all you do.
You're welcome. You have a wonderful day.